No one showed up for the paralyzed single dad's biggest day. Then the lady from the night before walked in. Charlie sat alone in his wheelchair, staring at the empty hallway of his brand new rehabilitation center. 3 hours had passed since the ribbon was cut. Not a single person walked through those doors. His phone buzzed. A text from his ex-wife. "Can't do this weekend either. Karis has other plans." He closed his eyes, fighting back tears. He had lost his ability to walk, lost his marriage, and now he was losing his daughter too. This center was supposed to be his second chance, his purpose. But the silence in this empty building told him the truth. Nobody cared. Then he heard footsteps, echoing down the corridor, getting closer. He looked up. A woman appeared in the doorway, slightly out of breath. Her eyes scanned the room until they landed on him. And then she smiled. The same smile from that night at the bar, the stranger he had poured his heart out to for hours, the woman he thought he would never see again. She walked toward him, and the first words out of her mouth were, "I saw the video. I couldn't let you sit here alone." In that moment, everything changed. Charlie stared at her, genuinely unable to process what he was seeing. Mandy, the woman from 3 weeks ago, standing in his empty center like she had just stepped out of his thoughts and into reality. "Mandy," he said. His voice came out rough. How are you here?" She was still catching her breath from running. She pulled her phone from her purse, turned the screen toward him. "I was scrolling through my feed, and a local community page posted this live video." She paused, watching his face. "They were filming your grand opening. I saw you sitting here alone and I grabbed my keys and drove straight here. I didn't even think about it." Charlie looked at the phone screen. There he was, frozen in a frame, sitting exactly where he was right now. Empty hallways behind him, unopened welcome kits on the table beside him. He looked small in that image, defeated. He handed the phone back to her and tried to smile. "Well?" Charlie looked around the empty center, then back at her. "You came all this way for this." "For you?" she corrected. Mandy put her phone away and crouched down so she was at his eye level. "Hey, look at me." He did. Nobody should have to go through something like this alone. Nobody. "Can you show me around?" He swallowed hard. "There's not much to see. As you can probably tell, the turnout wasn't exactly what I hoped for." "Then show me what I can't see," she said gently. "Show me what this place is supposed to be." Charlie hesitated. He had sent his small staff home an hour ago, too embarrassed to make them stand around in an empty building. The banners still hung on the walls. The refreshments he had prepared sat untouched on a table near the entrance. Everything was ready, except for the people. "You really want a tour of an empty building?" "I really want to understand what you built," Mandy said. "Please." So he did. He led her down the hallway, his wheelchair moving quietly over the polished floors. The first room on the left was the main therapy space. He gestured inside. "This is where the physical therapy happens. I bought all the equipment myself. Parallel bars, resistance bands, adaptive machines. Everything someone would need to start rebuilding their strength after a spinal injury." Mandy stepped inside, ran her hand along one of the parallel bars. This must have cost a fortune. "Everything I had saved," Charlie admitted. "I wanted it to be right. I wanted people to walk in here and feel like they had a real chance." They moved to the next room, the counseling space. Charlie explained how he had designed it to feel warm and private. Comfortable chairs, soft lighting, a space where people could talk about the emotional side of recovery without feeling judged or rushed. Mandy listened to every word. She asked questions. She wanted to know about his process, about the families he hoped to serve, about what had made him think of this in the first place. They ended up in the community room, a large open space with tables and chairs arranged in clusters, a small kitchen area in the corner, windows that let in natural light. Charlie stopped in the center of the room and looked around. This was supposed to be the heart of it, he said quietly, a place where people could just be together, share a meal, talk, realize they're not alone in this. Mandy walked to one of the windows, looked out at the parking lot. Still empty except for their 2 cars, she turned back to him. "Charlie, This is incredible. Do you understand that? What you've built here is going to help so many people. He looked down at his hands, resting in his lap. If anyone ever shows up, she walked back to him, pulled out a chair, and sat down across from him. They will. You just have to give it time. Word of mouth, community trust. These things don't happen overnight. Charlie leaned back in his wheelchair. How have you been? He asked, changing the subject. Since that night at the bar? Her expression darkened. My father is still demanding I marry the man he chose. The threats are getting worse. He's talking about cutting me off completely if I don't agree by the end of the month. And what are you going to do? Mandy smiled, sad and tired. I don't know. I want to tell him no, she said. I want to choose my own life. But I'm terrified. She looked at him. I've never had to stand on my own before. Financially, emotionally, my whole life has been built on his approval and his money. If I lose that, I don't know who I am. You're stronger than you think, Charlie said. She smiled, small and grateful. So, how have you been too? Charlie exhaled slowly. Honestly, worse. My ex-wife has been denying me my weekends with my daughter. Twice now, she's using Karis as a weapon and there's nothing I can do about it. Mandy's expression shifted. That's why you were at the bar that night. Yeah, I couldn't stand being in my apartment alone, staring at her empty room. He looked down at his hands. Missing her is worse than anything else. Worse than the accident. Worse than the divorce. I just want to be her dad. You are her dad, Mandy said firmly. A piece of paper doesn't change that. And neither does a wheelchair. Try telling that to my ex-wife. Or to a judge if it ever gets that far. Mandy reached across the table and placed her hand over his. I've been thinking about you, she admitted. A lot. I didn't know how to find you. We only exchanged first names that night. Charlie felt warmth spread through his chest. I thought about you too. Every single day. I kept going back to that bar, hoping I'd run into you again. You did? 3 times, he confessed. The bartender started to recognize me. I think he felt sorry for me. Mandy laughed. The sound filled the empty community room and made it feel less lonely. I almost went back too, but I was afraid you wouldn't be there. Or worse, that you would be, and I'd realize I had built you up in my head into something you weren't. And now? Charlie asked. Now I'm realizing I didn't build you up enough, she said softly. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Mandy glanced at her watch, and her expression shifted. I should probably let you close up. I'm sure you have things to do. Charlie reached out to her. She met him halfway. Their hands found each other. Thank you, he said, for showing up. Thank you for letting me, she replied. Before she left, she pulled out her phone. What's your number? I'm not losing you again, he told her. She typed it in and called him right there. His phone buzzed in his pocket. There, she said. Now you have mine too. He saw her off to the parking lot. I'll call you tomorrow, Mandy said. I'll answer, Charlie promised. She leaned down and kissed him on the cheek. Then she got in her car and drove away. Charlie sat in the parking lot for a long time after she left, her number saved in his phone, a smile on his face. If you believe that showing up for someone can change everything, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. Stories like this one remind us that we're never as alone as we think. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. The next 2 weeks were the best Charlie had experienced since before the accident. He and Mandy fell into an easy rhythm, lunch dates when they could steal away from work, long phone calls late at night when Mandy couldn't sleep and Charlie didn't want to hang up, long conversations in the park where Mandy walked and Charlie wheeled beside her. They talked about everything and nothing, about childhood memories and future dreams, about fears they'd never voiced and hopes they'd kept hidden. Mandy started helping him with the center. She shared his posts on her social media, brought a few friends to tour the facility, talked to people in her networks about the services Charlie offered. Slowly, families started showing up, one at a time at first, then more. Parents with children who had spinal injuries, adults recovering from accidents, people who just needed to know they weren't alone. One by one, they walked through those doors, and Charlie was there to welcome them. One evening, after the last visitor had left, Mandy and Charlie sat on the bench outside the center. Charlie turned to her. "Can I ask you something?" "Always," Mandy said. "Why are you doing all this? For me? For the center?" Mandy looked at him. "Because you remind me what it looks like to care about something bigger than yourself. You lost everything, and instead of giving up, you built something to help other people. That's rare." She paused. "And because I think I'm falling for you." Charlie's breath caught. He had hoped. But hearing her say it out loud made it real. "I've been falling for you since that night at the bar," he said. She smiled. "Then I guess we're both in trouble." He reached for her hand. The best kind of trouble. She leaned in. So did he. They kissed, gentle and tentative at first, then deeper. When they pulled apart, both of them were smiling. Over the next month, their relationship deepened. Mandy would spend her lunch breaks at the center. Charlie would visit her at her apartment in the evenings. They cooked dinner together, watched movies, talked about what it would look like to build a life together. It felt natural. It felt right. Like two pieces of a puzzle finally finding where they belonged. Then one Friday, Mandy came to him with a nervous expression. "I need to ask you something." "Anything?" Charlie said. "I want you to meet my family," she said. "I want them to see what I see. Who you are, why you matter to me." Charlie went very still. "Mandy, are you sure that's a good idea?" "Probably not," she admitted. "But I'm serious about you, about us, and I need them to know that." Charlie wanted to say no. Every instinct told him this would end badly. But he looked at Mandy and saw how much it mattered to her. "Okay," he said finally. "When?" "Tomorrow night. Dinner at the estate." He nodded, already dreading it. "I'll be there." That night Charlie barely slept. He kept imagining how it would go. The stares, the questions, the judgment. But he had made Mandy a promise. So the next evening he drove to the address she had given him. The estate was massive, a sprawling mansion with gates and a circular driveway where a valet stood waiting. Charlie pulled up, and the valet's eyes went to his wheelchair. "Sir, let me help you." "I've got it," Charlie said. He had practiced this 1,000 times. He transferred into his wheelchair with efficiency. The valet looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Mandy met him at the front door. She looked beautiful and terrified. "You okay?" she asked. "Ask me again in 2 hours," Charlie said. She took his hand. "No matter what happens in there, I'm with you. Okay?" "Okay." They walked inside together, and Charlie knew, the moment he saw her father's face, that this was going to be even worse than he had imagined. Mandy's father greeted them in the foyer. He was tall, commanding, with cold eyes that went immediately to Charlie's wheelchair. "So this is him," he said. No handshake, no welcome. Mandy's mother appeared, polite but distant. "Dinner is ready. Please, come in." The dining room was filled with family. The questions started immediately. "So Charlie, what do you do?" her father asked. The tone was barely concealed condescension. "I run a rehabilitation and family support center for people with spinal injuries," Charlie answered evenly. "A charity? How quaint," her father replied. "And your family background?" "Working class," Charlie said. "My father was a mechanic. My mother was a teacher." The table went quiet. Mandy's father cut his steak with precision. "And your prospects?" "Financially speaking." "I'm stable," Charlie replied. "The center is non-profit, but I take a modest salary. I own my home. I provide for myself." "Provided for yourself," the father corrected, gesturing at the wheelchair. Mandy's hand tightened on her fork. "Dad, I'm just trying to understand," her father continued. "What exactly you think you can offer my daughter? You have no wealth, no status, no physical capability to protect or provide in any real sense." Charlie kept his voice calm. I can offer her respect, partnership, love, things that don't require me to stand up. The father's eyes narrowed. Love doesn't pay bills. Love doesn't maintain the kind of life Mandy is accustomed to. Maybe I don't want that life, Mandy said quietly. Her father turned to her. Don't be foolish. You're throwing away everything for a man who can't even walk. The room fell silent. Charlie sat there, absorbing the cruelty, refusing to give them the satisfaction of a reaction. Mandy stood abruptly. We're leaving. Sit down, her father commanded. No, Mandy said. I won't sit here and listen to you humiliate the man I love. Her father stood as well. Then let me be clear. If you walk out of this house with him, you are cut off. No inheritance, no family support, nothing. Mandy's voice didn't waver. Then I guess I'm choosing nothing. She looked at Charlie. Let's go. Her father's face burned with anger she had never seen, and the words came out. You're not even my blood. I married your mother when you were 2 years old. I raised you out of obligation, and now that obligation is over. If you leave with him, you're no longer my daughter. The words hung in the air. Mandy went pale. She looked at her mother, back at her father. How come no one ever told her? She felt betrayed, like her entire life was a lie. Charlie could see the devastation on her face, but she didn't sit down. In the heat of the moment, she walked to Charlie, took his hand. I choose him. I choose love. And if that cost me everything you're offering, then I never wanted it in the first place. They left together. The entire family watched in stunned silence as Mandy walked out of that mansion and didn't look back. In the car, Mandy broke down. Quiet tears streamed down her face in the darkness. Charlie reached for her hand and held it while she cried. He didn't say anything at first, just let her feel whatever she needed to feel. After a few minutes, she wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. I should have done that years ago, she said, her voice still shaky. You didn't have to do that for me, Charlie said quietly. She turned to look at him. I did it for me, for us. She took a breath. He's not even my real father. All these years, all the times I tried so hard to make him proud, and I never knew. Charlie squeezed her hand. Family isn't about blood. It's about who chooses to stay. And he made his choice tonight. So did you. She leaned her head against the car window. What am I supposed to do now? I don't have anything. No family support, no inheritance. Just nothing. You have yourself, Charlie said. And you have me. That's not nothing. She looked at him and let a faint smile. They drove in silence for a while. When they reached Mandy's apartment, Charlie walked her to the door. Are you going to be okay tonight? He asked. Mandy nodded. I think so. I just need to process everything. Call me if you need me. Anytime. I mean that. She kissed him, long and deep. When she pulled back, there were fresh tears in her eyes. Thank you for being here. Always, he said. 3 days passed before Mandy heard from her family again. It came in the form of a white envelope slipped under her apartment door. No return address. She knew what it was before she even opened it. Inside was a single typed page. Formal, legal language that essentially said she was being officially disowned. Cut from the will, no longer welcome at family events or properties. The letter ended with a single handwritten line at the bottom, in her father's sharp script. You were never truly mine anyway. Mandy sat on her couch with the letter in her hands for a long time. She read it 3 times, each time hoping the words would say something different. They didn't. Finally, she crumpled it up and threw it across the room. Then she called Charlie. He came over within the hour, found her sitting on the floor surrounded by old photo albums. Pictures of her childhood, birthday parties, family vacations. Her father standing beside her in every single one, smiling like he actually cared. It was all a lie, she said when Charlie sat down beside her. Every single moment. It wasn't a lie to you, Charlie said gently. You loved him. That was real, even if his feelings weren't what you thought they were. I gave up everything for you, she said, and I don't regret it. I want you to know that. But I'm scared, Charlie. I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. What do you want to do? He asked. She thought about it. I've always wanted to start my own business. Event planning. I'm good at it. I just never had the courage to try. Then try now, Charlie said. You've already done the hardest part. You chose yourself. Everything else is just details. Details like money, she said. I have some savings, but it's not nearly enough to start a real business. Then we figure it out, he said. You helped me get the center off the ground when nobody else believed in it. Let me help you. She leaned against him. Why are you so good to me? Because you showed up, he said simply. When I was sitting alone in that empty building, you showed up. That meant everything. A week later, Mandy was sitting in her apartment working on a business plan when someone knocked on her door. She opened it carefully, half expecting another letter. Instead, she found her mother standing in the hallway, looking nervous and out of place. "Mom," Mandy said, genuinely shocked. "What are you doing here?" Her mother glanced over her shoulder, like she was afraid someone might see her. "May I come in?" Mandy stepped aside. Her mother entered, taking in the small apartment with careful eyes. She sat down on the couch, her purse clutched in her lap. "I can't stay long," she said. "He thinks I'm at the salon." Mandy sat across from her, waiting. Her mother pulled an envelope from her purse. Different from the last one. This one was worn, like it had been handled many times. "I've been saving money," she said quietly. "For years. I always told myself it was for emergencies. For a rainy day." She held out the envelope. "I think this qualifies." Mandy took it, opened it. Inside was a check, made out to her. The amount made her breath catch. "Mom, I can't take this." "Yes, you can," her mother said firmly. "You're braver than I ever was. You stood up to him. You chose your own life. Don't let anyone, not even me, take that from you." "Does he know you're here?" Her mother shook her head. "And he can't. If he finds out, I'll be the next one cut off. But I don't care. You're my daughter. Biology doesn't change that." She stood up. "Start that business you've always talked about. Build something that's yours." Mandy stood too, hugged her mother tightly. "Thank you." Her mother pulled back, touched Mandy's face. "I like Charlie. He's a good man. Better than anyone your father would have chosen." She smiled sadly. "I have to go. But call me. Not at the house. I'll get a separate phone. We'll figure it out." After her mother left, Mandy sat on the couch staring at the check. Then she called Charlie. "I'm doing it," she said when he answered. "I'm starting the business." "I knew you would," he said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. The next few months were the hardest Mandy had ever worked. She rented a small office space on the second floor of an older building downtown. Nothing fancy, just a desk, a phone line, and a dream. She built a website herself, staying up until 3 in the morning, teaching herself design software. She reached out to every contact she still had from her old life, carefully explaining that she was starting her own venture. Some ignored her, others wished her well but didn't commit. A few became her first clients. A small birthday party, a corporate luncheon, an anniversary celebration. She poured everything into each event, made them perfect. Her attention to detail was flawless. Her creativity stood out. Word started to spread. Slowly at first, then faster. Within 2 months, she had booked her first wedding. A big one. The kind that could make or break a new business. Charlie was there for all of it. He celebrated every new client, helped her move furniture into her office, listened when she panicked about whether she could actually pull off the wedding, reminded her that she was capable of more than she knew. Their relationship grew stronger through it all. They were partners, in every sense of the word. But there was still something missing for Charlie, something that ached every single day. Charis. He sat in his apartment one evening, scrolling through photos of his daughter on his phone. She had just turned 9. His ex-wife posted pictures on social media, a birthday party he wasn't invited to. He hadn't seen Karis in person in almost 3 months. His ex-wife had stopped responding to his texts entirely, stopped answering his calls. When he tried to show up for his scheduled weekend, she simply didn't open the door. Mandy found him like that, staring at his phone with tears running down his face. She sat beside him, didn't say anything at first, just put her hand on his shoulder. "I miss her so much," Charlie finally said, "and I don't know what to do. If I take my ex-wife to court, her lawyer will use everything against me. The wheelchair, my income, they'll say I can't provide a stable home, that I'm not capable." "What if you had a lawyer who could prove them wrong?" Mandy asked gently. Charlie looked at her. "I can't afford that kind of lawyer, but I know someone who might help," Mandy said. "My mother gave me some contacts before she left that day. One of them is a family lawyer, one of the best in the state. Let me reach out." "Mandy, I can't ask you to do that." "You're not asking," she said. "I'm offering. Let me help you get your daughter back." 2 weeks later, Charlie sat in the office of Lydia Jones, the lawyer with 20 years of experience and a reputation for winning difficult custody cases. She listened to his entire story without interrupting, took notes, asked clarifying questions. When he finished, she set down her pen and looked at him directly. "You have a strong case," she said. "Your ex-wife is in clear violation of your custody agreement, and from everything you've told me, you're more than capable of being an excellent father. We're going to fix this." The hearing was scheduled for a month later. Charlie prepared with Lydia's help. He gathered every piece of documentation he could find, photos of his home, showing how he had adapted it for both his needs and Karis's comfort, financial records proving his stability, letters from families at the rehabilitation center, talking about his character and his work, testimonies from people who had seen him parent Karis during the limited time he had with her. Mandy testified too. She told the court about Charlie's dedication to his work, his love for his daughter, the way he had built an entire center to help people when he could have easily given up. She looked directly at the judge and said, "I have seen this man overcome obstacles that would have broken most people. I have seen him help families rebuild their lives. And I have seen the way his face lights up every time he talks about his daughter. He is not limited by his wheelchair. He is defined by his heart." Charlie's ex-wife's lawyer tried hard, talked about physical limitations, about the challenges of single parenting, about whether a child should have to adapt her life to her father's disability. But Lydia countered every single point, with evidence, with facts, with testimonies from people who actually knew Charlie as a father. The judge asked Charlie one direct question: "What do you want from this hearing?" Charlie took a breath. "I want fairness. I want my daughter to have both her parents in her life equally. I'm not trying to take her away from her mother. I'm just asking for the time I'm legally entitled to. The time Karis deserves with me. I want to be her dad." The judge reviewed her notes, listened to the closing arguments. Then she made her ruling. The custody agreement will be strictly enforced. Any future violations will result in serious consequences for the offending party. Joint custody is now formalized with clear, specific terms. Equal time. The judge looked at Charlie's ex-wife. Disability does not determine parenting ability. Love does. Stability does. Presence does. And this court finds that Mr. Charlie has demonstrated all three. Charlie left the courthouse with Mandy beside him and a legal document in his hands that changed everything. That Friday, when his ex-wife's car pulled up, Karis jumped out before it even fully stopped. She ran to Charlie, threw her arms around him. "Daddy," she shouted, "I missed you so much." Charlie held her, unable to speak for a long moment. "I missed you too, sweetheart." So much. Later that afternoon, he introduced Karis to Mandy properly. "This is Mandy," he said. "She's very special to me." Karis studied her carefully. "Are you my dad's girlfriend?" "I am," Mandy said, crouching down to Karis's level. "Is that okay with you?" Karis thought about it with all the seriousness a 9-year-old could muster. "Do you make my dad happy?" "Very happy," Mandy said. Then it's okay, Karis decided. She went back to her coloring book. The matter settled. Over the next few months, the three of them became a family. Slow and natural. Weekend trips to the park, movie nights, dinners where Karis helped Mandy cook while Charlie set the table. The rehabilitation center continued to grow. Mandy's business took off beyond anything she had imagined. Everything had fallen into place in ways none of them could have predicted. One Saturday evening, Charlie asked Karis to help him with something important. They drove to the rehabilitation center after hours. Mandy met them there, curious about what was happening. Charlie led them both to the community room, the same room where Mandy had first sat with him on the worst day of his life. He stopped in the center and turned to face her. "This is where everything changed," he said. "You walked through that door when I thought I was completely alone. When I had lost everything and couldn't see a way forward. You showed up, and my whole life changed because of it." Mandy's eyes filled with tears. "You chose me when the entire world told you not to," Charlie continued. "You walked away from your family, your inheritance, everything you'd ever known. You helped me fight for my daughter. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." He pulled out a small box. "I don't have a mansion to offer you. I can't give you the life you grew up in. But I can give you my whole heart, every single day, for the rest of my life." He opened the box. "Will you marry me?" Mandy's tears spilled over. "Yes," she said. "Yes. Yes." Karis squealed and ran over to hug them both. The wedding was small, held at the rehabilitation center on a sunny Saturday afternoon. Karis was the flower girl in a dress she picked out herself. Mandy's mother sat in the front row, having defied her husband to be there. The seats were filled with families from the center, clients from Mandy's business, people who had been part of their journey. When Charlie wheeled himself to the front and watched Mandy walk down the aisle, he thought about everything that had led to this moment. The accident, the divorce, the empty opening day, the stranger at the bar who had understood his pain, and the moment she had walked back into his life when he needed her most. They exchanged vows, simple promises to choose each other, every single day, to show up, to stay, to love through whatever came next. When they kissed, everyone stood and applauded. Karis threw flower petals everywhere. At the reception, Karis gave a short speech that Charlie had helped her write. "My daddy told me that family are the people who choose to stay," she said in her clear 9-year-old voice. "Mandy chose us, and we choose her, forever and ever." Charlie looked around the room, at his daughter, at his wife, at the center that had started empty and was now filled with people who had become family. He had lost so much, but he had gained everything that actually mattered. The greatest families aren't built by wealth or status or even biology. They're built by love, by sacrifice, and by choosing one another, every single day. If this story reminded you that love is a choice we make every day, and that our greatest struggles can become our greatest strengths, please like this video and share it with someone who needs hope. Subscribe to hear more stories that prove compassion and courage still matter. Thank you for being here. See you in our next one.